JV Videos says CNBC recently uploaded a video titled Why Men Are Leaving the Workforce. Thank you, JS, because it's definitely worth looking into, and I'm going to. And here it is. Why men are leaving the workforce, which is gaslighting. It's why men are being booted out of it or not allowed into it in the first place. Now, before we get into this, though, I'm going to show you the differences between men and women. This one, why you keep quitting your job? Well, to keep quitting implies that you keep getting hired. So getting hired is not a woman's problem. This is a man's problem. Let's listen to this woman, right?
Big problem in our community. It's not a problem that we shift from thing to thing. It's a problem that we have so much shame and guilt around it.
Really? So her issue isn't that they don't need to have a job, so they just dump them on a boredom. It even says so. Job switching and boredom burnout. I wish I had her problems. No, it's that someone is shaming her for throwing away a good job that us guys would die for.
Break this down. When you start a new career or a new job or some sort of a business, you are just stoked and you love it and it's compelling. And as you
Really, that's not my experience. It's like, I'm going to get into this work job that's drudgery, but I need to get by. And my experience is your experience, guys. Not hers. Working is fun.
we have interest-driven brains.
I know someone personally who was just like her. She would just leave a job one day, pick one up the next day. She'd come in, say, hey, I'm female, I'm pretty, I got a smile, I'm giggly. And employers, whether they were male or female, liked her and would just hire her. She was dumb as supposed, too. It didn't matter. But when I quit a job, it was like 1 or 2 years of begging and searching before I got one. That's our male experience.
Brains. So our brains are on fire. We're getting all kinds of dopamine from it. Our prefrontal cortex is lit up and our executive functions are going like they should. All is good until things start to become routine. When that happens,
yeah, work is boring and it's drudgery. And so time to pack up and just grab another one. This shows you just how privileged the opposite sex is, the female sex, right? This is privilege that you and I, guys, don't have. Matter of fact, this is why I'm going to point out 5 dangerous things to avoid saying in a job interview. Now, originally, this was, oh, sorry, get back here, guys. Job interviews are a waste of time. A guy even says that. Why interviews are a huge waste of time. They're a huge waste of time for us guys. Not for this gal, because when she quits her job, she can pick someone up tomorrow. So the interviews work for her, not you and me. Now, I want to point out this one. See how many videos are involved in this? So it happens all the time.
Hey, everybody.
No, I'm not going to, I don't need to even listen to this fool. 5 dangerous things to avoid saying in a job interview. One is, I didn't like what they did. So this woman, you think she's not saying that in her job interviews? She's meeting a woman who's just like her to hire her, and she's saying, hey, you know what it's like. You get bored with a job, you dump it. And she says, yeah, I know what you mean. Here, come work for me, and we'll have like get-togethers during lunch, right? So here's another one. So anyway, if you're honest as a man, it works against you. I'll do anything. That makes the guy look desperate, right? So, but this woman doesn't have to say that because she won't do anything. She has standards. She says, nope, that's beneath me. Because you know something, this woman, I bet she's married. I bet she has a guy she's leeching off of, and her jobs are just extra. Her money's her money, right? Also, let's see what else we got here. Tell me about yourself. That is sickening for guys to go through because we have to make up some bullshit story that somehow is different from every other guy's story. And again, this woman here, I bet she has a great time doing that because she's just chatting, right? Let's see what else we got here. I don't know how. I don't know how to do it. So if you're being honest, so you come to a job and you say, hey, I can do this, this, and this, but I don't know how to do that. They won't hire you, right? But you're being honest with your employer because you want to be upfront and say, this is what I can provide. So lying. If you're a man of integrity of any kind, the lying damages your soul. And I can say, I would probably, that's why at my age, I've told my family members, if I lost my job and I'm going on welfare, they would shit on me and say, well, gee, that's undignified. No, this is undignified. Welfare is miles above what these employers put men through. That's why men are leaving the workforce. Now, we'll get into this bullshit CNBC clip.
Men have been steadily dropping out of the workforce, especially men aged 25 to 54.
No, not dropping, being shown the door.
Who are often considered to be in their prime working years. As of August 2024, 13.7% of prime-age men were not working, compared to just 7.2% in 1954.
Why do I care? Get the women to do it. Get the women to do the work.
The long-term decline in labor force participation by so-called prime-age men is a tremendous worry for our society, for our economy, and probably also for our political system.
Really? So men not working would hurt the political system and society? That's weird. Here, just a minute, guys. Let me bring up an appropriate image. In the 1950s, there was a whole leisure class that has never really disappeared, But there was a leisure class, right? And yet society did fine with only 50% of us working. And there's Rosie the Riveter. We can do it. Just get her to take these jobs that men normally do. Problem solved, right? So these fools here in CNBC are admitting that society's upheld by men and women are just leeches. Okay.
There's a surplus of prime age workers who could be working and aren't, and that's this puzzling problem.
The unemployed
men aren't working. That's the problem. If you're a man, you gotta work. Women not working, no big deal.
Employment rate for prime age working men sat at 3.4% in August 2024. This number primarily includes those who are unemployed and looking for a job. But about 10.5% of men in their prime working years, or roughly 6.8 million men nationwide, are neither working nor looking for employment, compared to just 2.5% in 1954.
What's surprising is it's not a COVID phenomenon. It's not a recession phenomenon.
It's not surprising to me at all, guys. People are hostile to men, and so they look for any reason to harm us. They needed us in the past. Technology has made us obsolescent, work-wise. Now they have the excuse to throw us away.
And for every prime age man who is unemployed and looking for a job, there are more than 3, and some years 4, who are neither working nor looking for work.
So what's driving men out of the workforce? And if left unchecked, what impact will it have?
Or preventing them from even joining it.
On the U.S.
The answer is to hostility towards men. We know it.
economy. Nearly half of prime-age men out of the workforce cited obsolete skills, lack of education and training, poor work record, or security issues as a reason preventing them from work.
So they're not really leaving, they just can't get it if it's lack of education. Also, poor work record. There might be a case where you got fired, but the vast majority of us, a poor work record means we're brand new and we have no experience at the job. People don't want to hire men. So that'll be an excuse. They'll say, oh, you just had no experience at the job. You get a poor work record. So this woman's work record is one where she doesn't stay long. She stays 2 or 3 months, she dumps it. That doesn't stop her from getting a job. That's why she's able to quit her jobs, because she's able to get them in the first place. So employers, whether they're male or female, look at this woman with her big smile and say, we want women around. Oh, your bad work performance doesn't bother us. See, this is what I'm talking about.
Education is a very important predictor of a prime age man's odds of being out of the labor force.
Well, the world's become technological in ways it wasn't in the past.
The big impacts are on the non-college educated groups on their ability to enter and stay in the labor market.
Men who are not college.
Oh, by the way, guys, later on, they're going to mention how construction needs men to work in it. So that's something that you don't need deep education. You could be trained on the job. I want you to keep that in mind.
Educated leave the workforce at higher rates than men who are. At the same time, fewer younger men have been enrolling in college over the past decade.
You know why? Because unlike this woman here, who can live life on easy mode, we have to worry about, can we rack up debt and it be worth it in the end? This generation has seen the last generation flipping burgers, their degree meaning nothing. And they're tens of thousands of dollars in debt. You may as well flip burgers without being in debt.
Look at the geography of where the most prime age men out of the labor force are in particular. They tend to be in places that have experienced manufacturing declines. They used to graduate with a high school education and have good, stable jobs. They weren't glamorous jobs. They were, automobile factories, sometimes mines, other manufacturing jobs, but they were respected, they were stable, and they could support a family.
In other words, it had status. They weren't glamorous jobs, but people respected them. So they got respect, and they made enough money that they could bribe a leech into their lives. And they were stable. They knew they could be there for the rest of their lives. So they admitted. So what's wrong today? The new jobs, they're not respected. There's no status involved. They can't get the girl. It's sad, but true. Men revolve their lives around getting the leech. If you can't do that, the job's no good.
Since then, due to technology-driven growth, a little bit due to Chinese competition, you've had a lot of
Chinese competition. Let me back that up. Where are all the men working there? These are all women being hired to do this job. Hey, I'm a guy. I need a job. I'm a Chinese man. I need a job. Sorry, dude. You've got male genitalia. No good. So how is China any different from the West?
A little bit due to Chinese competition. You've had a lot of manufacturing firms and the places where they were located that were one-horse towns become ghost lands, right?
Wages could also be a contributing factor. Median annual wages for men with a high school diploma have fallen from just over $57,600 in.
Could be. What a brain dead thing to say. People, we work for the paycheck, us guys do. Without the paycheck, we stop working. Duh.
in 1973 to $45,000 in 2023, adjusted for inflation. At the same time, wages for those with a bachelor's degree or more have increased by about $6,300 during the same period. This decline in earnings led to a 44% growth in the exit rate of men without a college degree from the workforce between 1980 and 2019.
Well, there you go. The college degree isn't worth it. It's not getting what we want out of it.
I think, honestly, status plays more of a role than wages. As I said before,
Thank you for admitting that. Status plays more of a role than wages. Thank you. So if there's not enough status to the jobs to get the female leech. Gotcha. Thank you for admitting that.
before you had a manufacturing job, it was respected, you were part of a community, breadwinner for your family.
Breadwinner for the family just means you got the girl. You bribed the woman. The kids don't matter. This woman here could decide not to have children. And this guy'd be happy with it. He just wants the woman in his life. And community is centered around the women. Women like to be with one another, so they hang together. Then the men who want to be with these women, they're a part of the social circle. If they don't get together with the woman, there's no community. To be honest, the community of men is pretty lame anyway. They're only dealing with one another because they want to be with these women. That says a lot about male psychology. These little boys here, they're fully human. We die at puberty. These little boys will play together and be happy with one another. As soon as they hit puberty and they become this loser, they don't give a shit about male friends. They want this leech and her fake love.
You had organizations like unions or
That's what community is.
Rotary clubs that surrounded your job, and that's gone.
In general, men without children are also less likely to participate in the workforce.
Cart before the horse. This is why you should be discussing it at this CNBC. It's not that men with children are more likely to participate in the job market. It's participating in the job market allows you to have children. For them to say this shows you the dishonesty of these people, and they are part of the problem. This gaslighting also attacks a man's soul.
Compared to men with children, especially men without education or training after high school.
What we have seen is a huge rise in the proportion of prime-age men who've never been married, and a very, very significant decline in the proportion who are currently married and have kids at home.
Really? So a man who can't get a job to bribe a woman doesn't get a woman. Wow.
And those two trends track closely with the big changes that we've seen about male attachment in the labor force. Correlation isn't always causation.
Now that was important, guys, what he just said there. It's illuminating what this liar is all about. Causation doesn't mean correlation, or vice versa, I should say. Why is he saying that? This is to suggest that he doesn't want to reveal that women select men for provision. That's what it is. He doesn't want to admit it. He knows it. Look how old this guy is. You think he doesn't know in his heart of hearts that if he lost his job and he couldn't get another one, his wife wouldn't leave him? Of course, it's a guy knows that. Every guy knows that. Correlation doesn't mean causation. Screw you, you lying sack of crap.
But looking at that correspondence is real important, I think.
Meanwhile, 57% of the roughly 10% of men not looking for work said their physical or mental health was the main reason for not being employed.
Oh, really? So they're not really leaving the workforce. They just can't enter it in the first place. They're sick. Right? And again, why do I give a shit, dude? Take care of those sick men. Let the women join up. Let them do the work. Let them do it.
with 55% citing a disability, serious illness, and or receiving disability benefits.
The whole question about the health and the mental health of male workforce dropouts is an extremely important and I think concerning one. Distressing proportion of the men who are out of the workforce say they're using.
It's distressing because men have to work. The peasants have to work. To be male means you have to work. That's it. That's what distresses this guy.
Using pain medications every day.
A 2017 research paper estimates that an increase in opioid prescription between 1999 to 2015 led to about 43% of the decline in men's labor force participation.
There they are again, cart before the horse. These guys, they're saying these guys got drugged up and then they just weren't any good for the workforce. No, the workforce was no good for us. And then these guys get drugged up to deal with that depression. See, these guys are bold-faced liars.
Participation rate during that period.
So then you have to ask, what sort of pain are we talking about? Are we
Who gives a shit? You're either able to work or you aren't.
talking about physical pain? Are we talking about metaphysical pain? There's an enormous amount of depression, mental health challenges that men in this grouping face. Some of this is a chicken and egg question. Did you drop out because you were feeling sad? Or are you sad because you dropped out and you're...
No. This isn't chicken egg. You're doing the old cart before the horse. Life is shit for men, and so they get depressed. That's right. That is it. There's no reverse of that.
living on the couch.
Unemployment is really terrible for people's well-being. Often people adapt to all kinds of negative shocks, losing a kid, being widowed, whatever.
Well, you might be right about that, but it's obviously not for you girls who swap out your jobs out of boredom.
And eventually kind of come back. But long-term unemployment is one of the worst things in terms of that. So what you have is a kind of scarring effect, and it's worse for men because their identity is much more wrapped up in their role as a worker.
Thank you. It's worse for men. It's not much more. It is. Because women as a sex are on easy mode. To be female, that's why women always identify as female, not their job, because that gets them what they want. Men have to be proved to be useful or we're tossed aside.
Men's declining workforce participation can potentially leave a lasting impact on the American economy.
It means slower growth of the economy.
How? Dude, Rosie the Riveter can just take over. Here's a solution. Get women to do the work.
Obviously, it means bigger wealth gaps within our society.
It certainly will have an impact on our productivity and probably already is.
The U.S. has been experiencing a severe shortage in labor, still missing 1.7 million Americans from the workforce compared to February 2020. The McKinsey Global Institute estimates that U.S. GDP could have been...
So all these guys are looking for work, and there's all these jobs that need to be filled by men, but they're not connecting. Why is that?
And $296 to $442 billion higher in 2023 if the country had been able to fill its job vacancies. However, some experts suggest the impacts of men leaving or never entering the workforce could be more sector-specific.
You need young men coming in wanting to replace those people going out. And so if men have primarily been in more manual labor, more blue-skilled and skilled trades, if
men are more involved in labor and blue-skilled trades. Maybe if we stop keeping women out of it, right? Like this woman here, who no doubt is a white-collar worker. We should get her to fulfill these jobs, and she won't be so bored, right?
they're older and they're leaving into retirement and there's not as many young men coming in, both because of declining cohort sizes, but moving in a different direction type of careers, we're going to be...
Why are they moving in a different direction? Because those jobs don't get them the woman. It's that simple. Like she said earlier, they lack respect, they lack status, so therefore they lack the woman. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, this is just the way men are. It'd be great if men rolled with the punches and said, oh, maybe I should live my life beyond centering around a woman, like I'm a little electron around a proton. But this is what we're looking at. This is the fact of the case.
Losing that sector of productivity.
Despite a steep rise in federal funding, the infrastructure sector hasn't been able to find enough workers, with the construction workforce shortage surpassing 500,000 in 2024.
And here's the other thing too, right? This is why guys get angry when other male immigrants are brought in. If there's all these jobs, how come the immigrants that are brought in aren't taking them, right? Is it a case where they lack the experience? So these guys are trying to get jobs, and then you bring more men in from other parts of the world who also don't get jobs. It just increases competition. It's to keep wages down. See, that's what it is to keep wages down. So once the wages get low enough, they're not attractive. They're not worthwhile a man going to. Because then a man is a slave. If you're working like a dog, just to say you get to sit by yourself in a 10 by 10 apartment, stare at the walls, you may as well be on welfare and get out of the rat race, right? Like what guy wants to go through, these job interviews, which are a form of sadism, just to get a job that doesn't get him what he wants, right?
We are a little concerned about the impact that inflation is going to have and has had on the movement of infrastructure dollars into the actual productive activity. Having a shortage of men in construction is going to raise a problem.
Again, douchebag. There's no problem. Just get Rosie the Riveter to take over. You're hiring women all the time. So much so that they swap out their jobs. Just get them to do it.
And could have a dire sociopolitical impact as well.
It'll get worse in ways that we would not like. I mean, I think it would lead to more premature deaths, but it will also...
There's always been a life gap between men and women. You never gave a shit before, so let's not pretend you give a shit now.
Also likely lead to radicalization and polarization, because this is a frustrated, left behind group with no options.
Thank you. So men aren't leaving. If they're not giving options, they're not entering in the first place. CNBC. These people speak out of both sides of their mouths.
There are problems that government can address and problems that government can't address.
So one of the first functions that...
For one thing, government can't be honest and say a lot of this is just the women. Guys will live like cavemen if they have that female partner to leech off them. These people don't recognize, or I should say they don't want to admit, that the big issue is that you'd have to pair men up with a woman. You'd have to force men and women to get together with men. Men you don't need to force. You need women to force it. They're not going to admit that. I don't want to see it. I don't want women forced to do that. But they can't even say it because they don't want to recognize what's motivating men and women.
That beats out policy is, economic growth. You have a strong economy, you're going to have increased wage structure, and it's going to bring people back into the market.
More than a
wage structure, dude. They're hiring. They bring in immigrants again to lower the wages. They don't want high wages. The men who are up top and actually are millionaires, they don't want to give their money to the working class. Do you understand that?
quarter of prime age men not looking for work cited insufficient pay as a reason preventing them from work.
There you go. I've been in that shoes too. Someone offered me a job and said, look, I'm a man. I can't work on part-time. I need a job that'll pay the rent. I'm not like Miss Privilege over here. who has a husband or a boyfriend and she can swap out her jobs for fun.
And nearly half said competitive pay, salary, compensation, and or bonuses was a very important factor when considering whether to enter or return to the workforce.
Yeah, they want to see growth. To be alive, you want to grow. And there's no growth there. They don't want a dead-end job. Right.
For the young, better training, skills training, better some form of post-high school education, encouraging that, maybe even subsidizing that. I think part of the youth mental health crisis has to do with what's next. What's AI going to do? What am I going to do? Are there any stable jobs? I can't afford college. All those questions all come together. And so models that help them kind of give them a jump start can be really effective.
For all I'm concerned, I'm looking forward to the damage. I hope society just keeps suffering because society wants men to suffer. And so now they're worried. They say, look, we want to be sadist towards men, and yet we don't want any consequences. No, I hope society finally gets suffering like the rest, like us guys.
Effective ways of intervening. And there are actually now really promising programs in high schools which teach kids financial literacy.
Now
They teach them
this is insulting right here.
About equitable entrepreneurship. They teach them about how do you foster better mental health as part of the workplace. And
pull yourself up by your bootstraps, horseshit. That's what this is. Here, this is how you make your own job, right? Here's how you get over your depression. Get back on the workforce. No, you female scumbag. You women, you get into these jobs, you do them. We'll be the house husbands, and we can take what you had in the past and leech off you. No, screw you. Screw you. Anyway, I've seen enough of this, and I've said what I need to say. Screw CNBC and all these gaslighters.